Wishing to address the City Council, Assessor Agency to the RDA and Housing Agency is asked to complete a speaker slip and submit it to the City Clerk prior to the start of the meeting. When the item is announced and your name is called by the Mayor, please come forward to the microphone and address yourself to the City Council. Unless the Mayor extends the time, there is a 3-minute time limit for each public presentation. If you wish to address the City Council on any subject matter within the City Council's jurisdiction that is not listed on the agenda, you may do so during the public comment portion of the agenda. Any information provided on the speaker slip will be public record. Diane, will you call the roll?
Mayor Pro Tem Villegas Walker.
Here.
Mayor Solomon.
Here.
Councilmember Sanders.
Here.
Councilmember Jackson and Councilmember Silva are absent. Excused.
We'll have the Pledge of Allegiance by Mrs. Walker and invocation by me.
Please stand and then remain standing for the invocation. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Lord, we thank you for being in our midst this evening. We ask that you be in the midst of those that are in jails and in prisons. We ask that you be in the midst of those that are in convalescent homes and hospitals. We ask that you be in the midst of those that are sleeping up under bridges and people that are talking to themselves. We ask that you be in their midst. For our armed service people that are stationed throughout the world, we ask that you be in the midst. For those that are in wars, we ask that you be in the midst. Lord, we know that times are hard, and we know that one of the things that can help us through all of our hard times is you. And we hope that we never forget that, and we thank you for being in our presence. I ask these things in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
We have the City Attorney's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On a motion by Councilmember Villegas Walker, second by Councilmember Sanders, the City Council met in closed session at 11:33 a.m. Councilmembers Sanders, Solomon, and Villegas Walker were present. Councilmembers Jackson and Silva had excused absences. Reports were given to the Council on all 4 anticipated litigation items. There is no action to report on any of them, but directions were given to staff. City Council met with its real property negotiators, Ruben Duran, City Manager, and Marcela Piedra, Economic Development Director, and heard reports regarding lease purchase negotiations for the 4 properties listed on the agenda. There is no final action to report on any of the properties. Closed session concluded at 12:31 p.m., and that concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. We have a presentation of a wellness program, Biggest Losers, certificate of recommendation. Is being presented by Terry Brownlee.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. Tonight we're here to recognize our first brave employees that participated in the Biggest Loser program that we had. But just a little bit of summary of how we got here. In January, we started the wellness program with the support of the City Council. We first started with over 100 employees and their spouses that joined into the biometric screenings that we started. We worked with El Centro Hospital. We did flu shots, there was a bike ride, walking programs, a lot of presentations on healthy cooking, and some webinars, and then the last one that we just finished was the Biggest Loser. But to get this all going, a committee was formed, and Grace Connor, Grace? Frank Soto. Also, there was Lindsay Takata, Maria Birdsall, and Michael Coyne. They're the ones who came up with all the different ideas on what to do for the employees in the wellness program. So we will go and hand out the certificates, but I think we only have one of the members here. Eddie Bedueño.
Congratulations are in order.
someone want to come up? I can't call you Big Eddie anymore.
I want to thank Human Resources, Terry, Lindsay, everyone that was involved, the city. They kept it exciting, real motivating. Also had a former city employee that helped me a lot at Snap Fitness, JB West, for free, just offer advice. I told her I was in there, she would give me a lot of advice. I really appreciated her help. I'm looking forward to round 2 if we do it. So
no more chocolate cake.
No. So thank you very much.
Congratulations. And just for the record, first place went to Marcos Terrazon from the wastewater plant. He had the highest percentage of weight loss. Joe Bernal from the fire department had the second highest. Eddie Medueno was the third. He actually lost the most pounds, not percentage-wise though. Some of our other members that are participants was Maria Birdsall, Aida Suarez, Veronica Ramos, Andrew Miller, Luis Castro, Nana Herbert, Myrta Camarena, and Melanie Sullivan. Those were that started and completed.
I'm wondering if at the next quarterly event where the employee recognition, if we could bring those back and
Sure.
present them at that time. Because I
Sure.
think it's really important for them to be recognized for this tremendous accomplishment, especially among their peers. So if we could include that into the next celebration of our employees, that would be awesome.
Sure. And we will be doing a second round of this once everybody gets back from vacation.
Great job.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have scheduled public comments. Items appearing under this section has submitted a written report to the city clerk a minimum of 1 week prior to the regular meeting. We now have the monthly report by the El Centro Chamber of Commerce.
Mr. Mayor, Councilman, as you all know, the Chamber of Commerce mission statement is to make a strong local economy. And this year, the Chamber is focusing in bringing events that will do just that. Our goal is to make a signature event that will bring millions to our local economy. 2 years ago, Roger Norman had a race in our desert that brought a lot of excitement to our local merchants. Since then, he has bought SCORE. SCORE is a company that races in the desert. Last year, the State Line race, a 3-day race, brought 8.1 million to the local economy. The Laughlin race, a 4-day race, brought 11.5 to the local economy. And that's before he bought, the SCORE company. Now, SCORE races in Mexico and Nevada. Next year, SCORE plans to race 3 times in Mexico and 3 times in the United States. One in a private land, the other one in an Indian reservation, and the third one right here in our public land. With his help and our help, we can make this happen. SCORE is equivalent of NASCAR of off-road. And if we make it happen, El Centro will become a destination point for a lot of people around the world. And second, we're looking into bring a 3-day bike run, motorcycle that is, on the weekend of the Blue Angel show. If it happens, but most likely will happen. The Blue Angels announced that they're going to have a show here next year, so that's great. And that'll help us bring thousands of dollars to the local hotels, restaurants, and retail stores. And last, don't forget about the Fireball Run coming up September 27 and 28. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We have Pastor Albert Zambrano, request for waiver of sewer capacity fee for property located at 997 East Evan Hughes Highway in El Centro. Pastor.
How are you doing? My request is to waive for the capacity fees because they're too high. There is almost $69,000 for the capacity fee on my property on 997 East Evan Hughes in El Centro, California. And I've been a volunteer for the hospital for the last 10 years. I pray for the sick people. I read the Bible for them, and with the rental income that I get from this property that I barely bought it like 7 months ago, I pay for my own work or ministry. I don't ask for any money or in any ways, offerings or tithings. And the city wants me to pay also for the job outside on the street, which is the installation of the sewer pipe. So my petition is that if I pay for the job outside on the street, which is also a lot of money, because the city is refusing to do the job. You know, a year ago they were willing to do the job with the previous owner, but not this time, and they changed their mind. And I was wondering if they can waive the capacity fees, the $69,000, and I pay for the job outside, or if they reduce the capacity fees and I can pay for the. Or either way, they can do the job outside, and I pay for the capacity fee if they reduce the price because it's too high. Or I can, or they can, I can pay for the job outside, and they can reduce the price on the capacity fees. And I don't know. You have my letter, my request. It's right there. Everything is there. And I went with the previous owner. They told me they already paid the city $195,000. The letter is there. They gave me the letters, and $195 is a lot of money just for the city water. They should include the city sewer also with that amount of money, and that's my request.
Ms. Walker?
I did want to disclose I had the opportunity to speak with Mr. Zambrano today.
Amen. Praise the Lord.
To get additional background with regard to his request. And I do thank you for the work that you do in our community.
Amen.
I do have questions for staff with regard to the letter that Mr. Zambrano has provided to us with regard to the prior owner and what was paid and what the agreement was with regard to services for this parcel of land. So it sounds like that you recently acquired the property.
Yes.
And you were aware that there were significant issues with that parcel at the point in time that you purchased the property.
Well, they never mentioned that I was going to have a lot of problems, getting the city sewer, which is only 100 feet away from me. It's only a short piece of pipe,
But I think that that's something that I really want to focus in on, because you've provided us this letter, but I think that the prior owners of the park were pretty aware of some significant issues, and I'm wondering again, did they disclose those to you as part of this transaction? Doesn't sound like they did.
Yeah.
Are you understanding though, Mrs. Zambrano?
Well, yeah, if it's part of the, I'm sorry, if it's part of...
Did they disclose to you that there would be a requirement on your part of a substantial amount of money to be paid for your property to be in compliance?
Well, they only mentioned about they had some problems on the septic tank, but they never mentioned that I was going to pay a lot of money just to hook it up to the city sewer. And everybody's closing my doors and nobody wants to do the job, and now everybody knows about this situation, because with the previous owner they used to have a little bit of problems, and I didn't know that, so I go with the city sent me to hire a private contractor, and they already aware of all this news, and they don't want to do the job, or if they want to do it, they want to go too high, or because they say, why don't tell the city to do the job, because they told me that they don't have the equipment. And they told me, no, that's a lie. They can do the job, they just don't want to do it, you know.
Okay, so I think I have two questions for staff, two separate questions. One would be for the Public Works Department or the appropriate department to respond to what we have here in terms of the request. And then the second thing that I kind of have nagging in the back of my mind, and this would probably be directed to our city attorney, and that is, could this not be perceived as a gift of public funds if we were to waive the fees that we in fact have in place for everyone to pay? So would you mind if we had the Public Works Department give us a little overview and then have the city attorney?
Yes, and I also attach a map on on one of the pages.
Have you met Mr. Hagan?
Yes, on the meeting.
Okay. So, Mr. Hagan, are you ready to give us some background?
Yes. Have the mic This is an aerial view of the trailer park. It's located here in this triangle. And the water service, I think it was about 2-3 years ago, we had a Prop 50 grant, and it was really the state that pushed this grant. We agreed to sign it, and they basically filled out all the paperwork, and we did 2 different trailer parks. And so they've got a water service from City Water, and they paid their the Prop 50 grant paid the capacity fees, the installation, and the hookup. So now, with more water usage there within the park, before they just had raw water, we've had the septic issue where the septic's been running down the ditch here and overflowing the area where there is a septic tank. This is the proposed line here. There's a sewer line across the street. So we've always said, staff has always told the owners, the previous owners, the gals that owned it, we said, well, you'd have to do a jack and bore. We don't want to shut down the street. We don't want to open trench across that street. It's a main thoroughfare. So they would have to do a jack and bore, and then they would do it over here on one side, go across, and then connect. They'd have to open this area right here on the edge of the pavement and connect to the sewer line. As far as pricing, the capacity fees, this is the standard calculation. There's 16 mobile homes. It's 0.6 EDUs, and that's the cost per EDU, so it works out to be $69,000 just for capacity fees. That's a one-time cost.
I only have 10, they condemned 6. The county condemned 6 spaces because they said they're going to remove the condemnation on these spaces until I connected to the city sewer.
That, I guess that's another issue. Some of the units cannot be occupied right now because they've been condemned by the County of Imperial, but the capacity fees are calculated on the maximum number of units that if the park were up and running at full capacity, it would...
That's correct.
It would have 16 units.
Something very important I'd like to mention that
if Mr. Zambrano could come back to the microphone because we're not going to be able to pick him up.
Okay.
Is there anything else from Mr. Hagan at this point?
Probably.
Something very important I forgot to mention is that I'm planning to have 2 trailer homes or mobile homes for victims of the domestic violence for free. I'm not because I have a person right now that I pick up from the street and I give him a free rent, and I'm willing to give him free housing for these victims of domestic violence and free utilities also. I'm going to be paying for the electric bill and water and gas.
So, okay, thank you. Mr. Hagan, so we're looking at capacity fees of, just rounding, $69,000.
Yes.
And then what about the cost of the boring?
It would be, I don't know the exact number, probably between 40 to 60,000. I'm not sure.
And we would be looking to the property owner to do that as well?
Yes.
Okay. Now, the letter that was provided to council as part of this agenda material, agenda backup, The $195,000, was that part of the Prop 50 monies that were
It
applied for?
probably was. If they're quoting that, the previous owners, that probably was all Prop 50 money.
Okay, but at the time, we could not or did not apply for additional funding for sewer capacity fees?
The Prop 50 is just for domestic water.
Okay, so there's no
grant
way
for the
for us to
wastewater.
apply for that grant funding.
And if you're ready, Ms. Piedra can give you a background on her efforts in that area. Ms. Piedra? Along with the background of how you arrived at all of that.
Yes, good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members. We did have meetings with Mr. Zambrano to see if there was any possibility, because of the fact that the units that he has currently occupied are being rented to low-income families. We try to see if there was any type of program that we had available to try to assist them. Unfortunately, the funding that we have is through HUD, and when you have a situation where you don't have permanent foundations on the mobile homes, we can't assist them. And so he did submit an application to us, but as we looked into the program and trying to determine, the city doesn't provide any type of housing for mobile home parks, other than the time when we had the earthquake, and we basically had the state working with us to try to rehab owner-occupied mobile homes. Other than that, we haven't assisted any type of mobile home park owner. But we did try to see if there was any way that through some funding that we had available through HUD, we can help them. But unfortunately, again, given the fact that these mobile homes are not on permanent foundation, we could not pursue that assistance. The other scenario that was presented to Mr. Zambrano was the possibility of doing something similar to what the city has done with the residents at West Main. And so that was presented to him, and I don't know if at this time he has given consideration to that. But we did have a meeting with him to try to discuss options as far as payment of those fees.
Thank you. I did have a question pending with the city attorney. Again, I have a concern with regard to the whole gift of public funds if we were to waive if we were to do one of two things, or both, waive the capacity fees and or do the trenching.
So the California State Constitution actually prohibits the city making a gift of public funds, which is what Mr. Zambrano is requesting of this council. The standard is an appropriation benefiting a private party constitutes an unconstitutional gift of public funds if the public agency receives no consideration in exchange for the expenditure, which is the situation we have here, or if the expenditure does not fulfill a public purpose, which again is what we have here.
Now, if we go back to the mayor, if I may speak, the previous owner, because they were leaking waste into that drainage ditch, and then eventually the ID drain, we stopped that process. And one of the things that the previous owners were doing were pumping. And that's all our requirement is that they do not have to have the sewer line. They can pump, but it's very expensive to pump. The health department, though, will not allow any of those mobile homes that are empty, those sites, until there's a permanent solution to this. So there's another party that's involved in this who's preventing the additional mobile homes from coming in because of a lack of a permanent solution. So I want to give you that as that background. And this issue with this site has been going on for 3 years? Yes. Easily. Ever since the water line was provided to this site and the owner said yes. And then they started having a lot more water coming into their system, because prior to that, it was raw water, trucked in water, and they had a holding tank that pumped periodically.
They got rid of their problem.
Can you speak in?
When I talked to the previous owners, they said that violation, they already repair all those, get rid of all those violations. It's not, the leaking is not there anymore. Right.
Did they show you any documentation they showed you some documentation, Mr. Zambrano?
They have documents, yeah, and I saw that the ditch is clean. Mm-hmm. There's no green water from the sewer, from the septic tank. That violation, it's over already, and they have papers to prove it.
There is not an open violation. It was just, this is an issue that has been waiting really, because the prior owners were pumping constantly. And that's the short-term solution for us. The county, though, that is not their solution.
Even the previous owner told me that when that problem was on that property, that problem comes from like 2 or 3 owners before me, many years ago, since the 1940s. They told me that. And I don't know how many years ago they repaired it, and they put a plaque on it, and then it's not leaking water anymore, or sewer water no more. It's visible.
The most recent criminal citation that was issued against the previous owners resulted in guilty verdicts on 2 counts per owner. There were 4 owners. But that is resolved because there was a guilty verdict and they paid their fines. But the underlying situation which led to those citations still exists and could happen again.
Yeah, the ditch is clean. You can see it. It's visible. And that problem is not there anymore. That's why I'm spending more money on the septic tank now than before. And that's where I'm losing money right now, because it's too expensive for the septic pumping. Very, very expensive. And I know that city can do a trench, just do half first and then the other half, so they don't stop the traffic. It's only 83 feet of asphalt. It's very, very short, the pipe. 83 feet of asphalt plus 37 feet of dirt.
If I can provide on that subject, and Mr. Zambrano, we have covered this with him. There's approximately 12 inches of concrete under. That's an old state highway. If you recall the Alder sewer, we were putting that across just east of this over by the Alder Canal. We couldn't go through that road for the same reason. It's so much concrete. We had a jack and bore for our sewer line, and if you recall, because one of the contractors got his drill stuck in there. So it's not a matter of not willing to. The effort to break that concrete, it will create a much bigger problem. So it's an old state highway when they used to make them out of concrete back in the 30s. And that's the issue of why we're requiring the jack and bore, as well as closing a major highway like that. It has many other issues with it, but one of them is it's a lot of concrete to move.
Well, like I said, I can pay for the job on the street, which is not my jurisdiction. That's the city jurisdiction, because they still going to be getting the monthly service fee, which is going to be a lot of taxes for the city, because they're going to charge me the city sewer fee every month. So the city's losing money there. I pay for the job outside, on the street, but just tell them to waive the fees for the capacity. The capacity fees, just to waive it, and I pay for the job outside. I pay for the directional boring or whatever the contractor is going to do there.
Mayor, and the last part of that is, and I'm going to, Terry, and look back, no funds were ever deposited by the previous owner for this project. Am I correct?
That's correct.
So there are no funds.
Ms. Sanders.
Thank you. Mr. Zambrano, it seems like there's a huge dilemma for you, and we apologize for whatever hardship this is bringing to you in order to open up this opportunity for many people who otherwise would be left without a place to stay. You've heard from our city attorney, which did acknowledge that unfortunately we can't waive the fees, otherwise it's a gift of public funds. And how we go about trying to assist you seems to pose somewhat of a problem for us, at least as I see it. You made reference earlier that you do have several clients that you're assisting, and you offer them to stay in your mobile home park for free.
Yeah.
Are these individuals with the VOA, Volunteers of America, by chance?
No, right now, I can't have anybody there until I hook it up to the city's sewer. I have it in another place.
You have it in another place.
Yeah, I only have one place in a house. He's getting free rent because his father died, and he doesn't have a place to stay, so I give him free rent over here on another house.
Well, what I was wondering, have you considered looking to some of the agencies that you are preparing to
Yes.
assist their clients to give you some assistance in getting this task accomplished?
Of course, yes. I'm planning to deal with some kind of a county department, for some program regarding to this issue, and they can get free housing, VA or any other.
Well, I was thinking specifically of Volunteers of America, the VOA.
Yeah.
That's not a county unit, though.
Well, anything that I can, I can use my mobile homes to help the people will be great for me, because I've been helping people for many years. I also have a ministry of giving free food to low-income people and to homeless.
Yeah, and those are very commendable, and we really appreciate it. You heard the mayor in his prayer even acknowledge that we know we have many people with needs. I'm not sure, so this question now, Mr. Mayor, will be directed to staff. I'm not sure if there's, without our redevelopment agency, if there's any way that there is such a thing as a loan to assist this gentleman with any of these projects that he have on tap.
Ms. Piedra, we'd like to come back and respond to that, because we believe we've really exhausted all these options, but I'd like you to hear what we've exhausted. So it was just a cursory review. Ms. Piedra, you want to talk about the discussion with Mr. Zambrano on the loan?
Yes, again, we were looking at some rental housing funds that we have, program income that we have. But this is basically the regulation that governs these funds is through the Department of Housing and Urban Development. And there's a requirement or provision in there that we cannot assist a mobile home that is not on permanent foundation. And so I've expressed that.
Does it also have to be owner occupied?
It has to be owner occupied. The program that we worked in the past with mobile homes was basically an emergency program when we had the earthquake and there was the need to assist the 18 families that we did, but that was a state program, and they came down, as you probably recall, and they came down and met with us, and they were able to work with us to work with these families. And also an issue to keep in mind too is that the city does not have jurisdiction as it relates to building codes with mobile homes, and so the county is the one, and we had even suggested that perhaps maybe he try to work with the county and seeing if maybe they can assist him in any way. And so we've tried to work with Mr. Zambrano. Again, I don't know if he has given any thought or consideration to setting up some kind of payment plan with the city. So we've tried to help him, at least provide him with options.
I was thinking, thank you, Mrs. Piedra. I was thinking, Mr. Mayor, if I may continue, I was thinking of maybe a payment plan, but we have a dual issue here. It's in the city, but yet it's county jurisdiction over mobile homes. And then your clientele would be renting, and it's not owner occupied.
Yeah, I see all the most of the mobile home parks around here in El Centro, and they don't have concrete foundations. That's only for the bank. They require a concrete foundation when you ask for a bank loan.
I'm not drawing the comparison, Mr. Zambrano.
Yeah.
What are you trying to?
Because my mobile home park has got concrete floor, and it's got all the hookups, the electricity, everything. The electricity is brand new. The electric meters are.
But that's county has jurisdiction over mobile home parks. That's some of the dilemma.
I was wondering, if they can just do the work on the street, and then I can pay for the capacity fees. They don't want to waive the fees.
The fees.
The public works can do the job.
Unfortunately, we're in a position where the fees cannot be waived. But I think, Mr. Mayor, it appears as though. I don't know, unless Ms. Walker has some additional
I had a question. Would doing the work to to make the connection, would that also constitute a gift of public funds? I believe that's what I understood the city attorney to say as well.
Yes.
So either action on the part of the city of El Centro, according to the interpretation of our city attorney, would be a gift of public funds, either to do the connection or to waive.
Yeah, because it looks for me unfair, to pay for both things, capacity fees, and they pay for the job on the street, and then pay for the monthly service fee once a month. It's unfair. I should pay only for the capacity fee like any other residential.
But we have other instances where that's exactly what's been required of both residential and commercial development, is the capacity fees and the hookup. So in this instance, we would be treating you as we've treated everyone else. If I may, it seems to me that we've maybe identified 4 potential options, things to look at. One would be a payment plan, but the payment plan would have to include both the capacity fees and also the installation of the sewer line. Whether or not the county of Imperial would be available to provide any assistance. Whether or not there would be any nonprofit grant funding available to you to assist with the fees.
Because I'm both. I'm a nonprofit and I also a business.
That's what I'm saying, is that perhaps you could apply for some kind of grant funding. I believe Ms. Sanders mentioned the VOA, partnering, so a private-public partnership to get the fees paid. But the last thing I think that really is probably worthy of some consideration is what kind of disclosure was provided to you by those prior owners before you purchased the property, because they've had extensive interaction with the city of El Centro, so the prior owners were aware that both of these things had to happen for that property to become fully operational. And if that was not disclosed to you, then I think that you need to go back to the prior owners and say...
They mentioned it, the previous owner, they mentioned that they had problems with the septic tank, and but they said as soon as I hook it up to the city sewer, the problem is going to be over.
Yeah,
but I never realized it's going to be so expensive.
So the prior owners never informed you that the fee for the hookup would be, so he was not aware. They didn't. It appears to us, Mr. Zambrano, that the prior owners did not reveal to you that the hookup fee or the capacity fee, they didn't give you any indication of the cost, the prior owners.
I have to review the title, because they gave me a bunch of papers and I had to review it. You know, they mentioned that how much is the capacity fee, but I don't know if it's the same amount or now it's probably a lot more because it goes up a certain period of time. But I really want the city to do the work outside. It's not a long, very long distance. It's just 100 feet long from the manhole to my property line. I wish.
But boring under the road is what's upsetting.
Yeah, I wish I can do the job. I know how to do the job, but I don't have a license for that. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Brown. We've exhausted, I think, this.
Well, I don't think that there's anything that we can do in terms of waiving the capacity fees and or doing the installation of the sewer line. I would like to refer this back, though, to the city manager, city attorney, and the director of public works to meet, and Ms. Piedra, to meet perhaps one more time with Mr. Zambrano to see if there are any options, including options that we've discussed here, whether there's assistance with the County of Imperial, if we have any ideas with regard to grant funding, a payment plan, and perhaps the prior owners. I think those are things that we've suggested be
And if they can reduce the amount, a discount or something.
Okay.
We're asking for one more meeting with you and staff.
Amen. Praise the Lord.
Thank you for bringing
Thank you.
this to
God
our
bless you all.
We now have a presentation by Robert Williams regarding the fee to connect to the West Main water line. Mr. Williams.
Good morning, or pardon me. Good evening, council members. My name is Robert Williams on 2779 West Main Road, El Centro. I think you're probably aware that the IID has told us that unless we're hooked up to the city, we cannot continue to get raw water to our property. And the city brought out water to West Main area some years ago. However, when they hooked up everybody, they changed the MOU and decided to do it on a different way instead of through the MOU. Since then, I've been on raw water and do my own filtration system, as has Bob Horn, which is my neighbor. Apparently that's not good enough for the health department anymore, so they came up with the idea that I have to be hooked up to the city. The city gave me some contracts and agreements. They gave us 3 actually. The capacity fee one, I've already paid my down payment on that, and I have that here signed by my wife and I, and I'd be glad to turn it over to the city, and if you would receive it and
Your
unhook.
capacity fee has been paid, so that's not at issue right now. Correct?
That's
Okay.
for me anyway. That's not an
It's
issue.
not an
I
issue
don't.
with the city.
It's
not an issue for
with
us.
us either.
Yes, I think almost all the residents in that area paid back when it was still below
At the
1,000.
discounted rate.
Yes.
Okay, so that we're good with that. So
Okay, and I am presently I am hooked up with the city. However, my water meter is locked off, and I can't even. I've got a backflow preventer on the system and everything, so I could switch over, but I can't do that without the city accepting my capacity fee contract. And I have been told by, what is his name?
I thought we just decided that capacity fee was not at issue.
Yeah, one of our staff members was mistaken on that and had a discussion some time ago with Mr. Williams that he thought there was a difference on the capacity fees. No, the capacity fees are paid in full. That was a mistake on our staff side when they had that. The thing that item we're talking about is the construction fees.
Yeah,
Construction fees.
Okay, so this is your proportion of the overall construction fees that were paid to run the line out to West Main.
The problem with that is that the original agreement was for an 8-inch line running down what would be, I guess you'd call it Horn Road, which doesn't exist. But nothing was done on that. City made the decision not to do that, and that blocks the rest of my property from ever being developed. So it's really kind of like the city is saying they don't want development out there. They got all the houses all the way around me, and I don't understand that. But I do not feel like it is in my best interest to change off the MOU. The MOU was for some $86 a month for 30 years to cover the cost of the development of all the lines and such out there, which I agreed to. I signed up on that. I was one of the first ones that did. And then they decide to change it and charge us different fees and charge for the land that's behind me as well. In other words, it came with 3 contracts. This is one of them, the capacity fees. The other 2 were for the line cost, supposedly. But I can't develop the property. I still would have to have a 8-inch line running down there to develop the property. So it seems to me that you're asking me for money for something that's not there. And so I have not paid any of that, and I'm objecting to it. I would like to see the 8-inch line out there, and I would be glad to go back to the MOU and pay the $86 a month for 30 years, which would, if the other 2 people involved, Moz and Bob Horns, were to go in on that, I would pay a fair amount would be able to take care, I would think, of the 8-inch line plus whatever our costs on the other is. It seems like a reasonable thing.
Ms. Sanders?
Yeah, I have a question, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Sure.
This is for staff. Thank you so much,
Okay.
sir. Mr. Williams, I'd like to have Mr. Hagan come to the microphone, please. This information provided to us, claims for damages, etc., goes back to December 29th, 2010.
I'm not sure what paperwork you're referring to, the MOU or?
No, information that I think was provided by the applicant himself.
Okay.
However, was this a part of a process where we had a grant come forward and then the grant was modified or changed whenever we were doing that work out there?
This has been going on over 10 years. Initially, there was an attempt to get a grant. We thought we were going to get a grant. We went through the annexation process. LAFCO wanted to see an MOU. We produced the MOU, and it had some sample numbers, what they thought that would be, assuming that the grant would be forgiven and not have to be paid back. The grant didn't go through, though.
So the grant never materialized.
It never
For
materialized.
clarification, Mr. Hagan.
So this is this the area that Mr. Williams believed there was modifications and information was shared that was, in his mind, a little bit erroneous, and the numbers changed? Was it due perhaps to that, Mr. Williams?
Well, I believe also there was a small claims court case.
Well, I guess
dealing
we
with
can take
as
this
well.
back. The grant was not applied for by the city. That was by the, I'm not sure exactly who the applicant was. It wasn't the city.
coalition.
It was the coalition or
Representing
that group out
area.
there.
Yes.
And then when the grant did arrive at Sacramento for their review, it was rejected. It had to do with population numbers and income levels. So that was not a city grant. We assisted with numbers so we tried to get them through the process. So we gave technical assistance, and that was almost 10 years ago. And then we came back with, well, we're prepared to put a line out there. We also didn't require anyone to hook up, because there were some folks, at least 4, that said, no, we're going to stay on our own. And so that's why this has not been our issue. We did also provide the opportunity for individuals to pay the capacity fee just before it went up, because it was going to be up. And once they bought that capacity, they had that. I think that's part of the market. There was some confusion on that, is that if you bought the capacity, we're all right with it. There were some a couple of unusual circumstances, and Williams was one of these that we offered. If they would go into an agreement, we would not assess that back property until it developed, but we would do a separate development agreement on that, or we would just handle it all as one. Because there is another lot in behind. We have another property that's like that, which is the Moss property, and they have a large parcel also. We'd have to enter into a separate development agreement. So we didn't treat this as a cookie cutter approach. We sat down for those unusual circumstances, and there were a couple of them. But because individuals chose not to hook up, which we didn't require, we really thought we were done. But then the state water board took a different position with the IAD, and we've been trying to assist the IAD in that process for the last 5 months.
So all of the property owners out West Main are now connected?
Except for
3?
Four.
Okay, Okay, so, I mean, this has been the subject of an extensive number of very, very long city council meetings, and that's in addition to a lot of staff time that have been devoted to this entire issue of the West Main project. So I guess what you're telling us, Mr. Williams, is that what's triggered this now is that the state has said no more, or someone has said no more. The IID has said no more. And
I don't think it's the IID, it's the health department that came down on the IID. Now, I don't know who instituted that or who triggered that or what got triggered on that. I don't know.
so now you need to connect. Your water meter is locked. And what is the amount that you've been told needs to be paid for you to move forward?
They have me set up to pay 3 documents. The capacity fee, I'm willing to sign and have already signed it, but nobody accepted
Fee's
it.
not an issue. We're done.
Okay.
That's been paid. So what I'm
The other
wondering is
two
what are the other two?
The other 2 are some $10,000, $10,595, and the other one's $16,254.42.
Okay, and the first one, the $10,595 is for
Right.
what?
That's for my house area, where my home is.
Is that construction fee?
There is no,
Is that-
there's no division out there. This is an arbitrary, how would I put it? Arbitrary.
Well, I thought we took the total amount of the construction costs that we allocated to the residents out there.
Right.
And then we did an allocation based on lot size. So there was an amount that was allocated to your parcel
Yeah, well, and add the
based
10,
on
add the 10,000.
total cost.
Add the 10,595, 60, and the 16,254.42, and you've got the number.
Okay, so
For the-
your total allocation of the overall construction cost is roughly $26,000.
26, yeah, 26, almost 27, yeah.
All right, let's call it $27,000. Now, it seemed to me that part of this entire process, the city offered the residents a number of options in terms of funding this. I thought we did loans that could be paid in nominal and monthly installment amounts. I thought we also offered the option that it could be paid in full upon sale of the property. I thought there were a number of things that we did to facilitate this new system being provided to the residents. Yes?
That's correct.
Okay.
Problem being is that the original agreement on the MOU,
And I'll just kind of short circuit that a little bit. We've all agreed that the MOU is no longer applicable. And to the extent the residents felt that the MOU should be enforced, they were given the opportunity to file claims and to litigate that against the city. And I believe that you and your wife filed a claim
right,
to contest the MOU,
yeah.
but it
Nothing.
didn't go forward.
That's right. It never,
So
there wasn't
I
any,
think what we can say.
well, I was stuck with
Yeah.
with what this happened was that I could hook up to the raw water system, and as Mr. Duran
Yeah,
is,
we're not going to come back to the MOU because we've already moved past that with all of the other residents there. So now that, in my mind, what we need to address is what options has the city presented to you to pay these 2 fees? Have you been given a payment plan? Have you been provided with the opportunity to pay upon sale? We need to be dealing with resolution. We're not going to go back on the MOU. That's not an issue any longer.
what you're saying is that I'd have to pay $26,000 if I sold my property. And apparently what you're also offering is that there would be, what is it, 100...
Now, what I'm asking you is what has the city provided to you? Just because I don't have what you're looking at in terms of what the city has offered
The city has offered that if I would pay, what is it, 100 and, I can't find it right now.
Is that on the information that you provided us, Mr. Reedy? Or is that something you just have in your, did he provide you anything?
It's in here somewhere. I just said, 113.68 per month on the 10,595.60.
Okay, so $113 per month.
Yeah.
As a payment plan on the
An
10,595.
outrageous 5.25% interest. Usurious interest.
Okay, but at least they've offered you something in terms of a payment plan.
Yeah.
$114 a month.
What about the 16?
And then what about, then what's the option for the 116? Excuse me, 16, it's not 16.
On the 16,000, they basically have said, whenever I sell the property, it would come due.
Okay. So if you signed those agreements today and agreed to pay $114 a month, we could get your water meter unlocked and you'd be good to go.
I would think that's probably what they would do.
And what you're asking us to do then is what?
Put in an 8-inch line,
Ms.
like it was on the MOU.
I beg your pardon? You can't go back to the MOU, sir.
You keep on telling me you can't go back to the MOU, but you never, what I'm saying is that we objected to them not doing it in the first place, and it didn't make any sense at that time. What you're saying is that property should never be developed, because you can't do it without a 8-inch line down there, at least that's what the city says. So you've got to have that water line in there in order for that property to be developed. So what you're saying is don't develop that property, just, live with it the way it is.
Well, let us hear from Mr. Hagan and
Yeah, because I think we're talking about a couple of different things. I think we're talking about resolution of getting you connected as part of the West Main water line project, but I think that the issue you're raising with regard to the 8-inch line is separate and apart from that.
Undeveloped land.
Yeah, and I think that we need to understand from Mr. Hagan what the comment is.
Mr. Williams, if he could have the microphone, otherwise we're not going to be able to pick him up.
It doesn't make sense that we can't be agreeable to putting, why would you not want to put the 8-inch line out there? Let me ask that.
I'm asking Mr. Hagan to explain for the benefit of the council and those present, what specifically you're talking about when you say put in an 8-inch line.
I put in a 2-inch line.
So this is Anhorn Road here, and I believe you have this property right here, 4.6 acres, is that correct?
Yeah.
So you own the property that fronts both West Main and the future Anhorn Road. And the original design was to put an 8-inch line here, Santa Rosa, Glenwood, and then Anhorn Road. But when we got to that point, we realized we had no right-of-way. This road's never been dedicated, and you've got large parcels that front the future road. So each parcel's going to have to dedicate right-of-way to put this road in. And once the dedication's been done, then utilities can go in.
Excuse me. I talked to the parties today, and at least a couple of the parties, and they are in agreement that it does have to have a right-of-way in there. And I think we can get a right-of-way very simply. I would be able to grant it. And I'm trying to say that I think that can be done. That shouldn't be a problem, and I don't think it would have been a problem at the time that the original contract went in.
So Mr. Hagan, if we were able successfully to acquire the right-of-way down Anhorn Road, there are 3 property owners there, Mr. Williams?
It's actually 4.
Okay, so 4 property owners. If we were successful in obtaining the right-of-way along Anhorn Road for an 8-inch line, is that what we would put there?
You would want an entire road right away.
Oh.
So
if I may clarify, that is an additional project.
That's taking
And it
us
is
in
an
a different
additional
direction.
That's an additional project.
That's an additional.
Part of this also was when we allocated all these costs by acreage, all those projects, so it was all allocated by acreage. This additional line is another project.
Yeah, we have 10,000, we have 16,000. Now we're looking at another project with a
Because even if we got the right-of-way, then for the entire area.
Well, the money we're collecting is for the project, the $1.2 million project we already did,
Right.
which the city did pay more than half on.
Right.
And I could swing over to those numbers if you want to review those. Go through these photos. This is during the construction here. And we get over here, and the contract was the 1.24 million, and the city's portion was 672,000, and the residents' portion was I can't quite read that, 568 or 558. And of that, Ann Horn, that was divided up so that Santa Rosa and Glenwood would pay 481,000. Ann Horn would be responsible for 106,000. And if you look at the map again, we go back to the map, your property accounts for a little less than a quarter, maybe 20 some percent, low 20s, the 4.6 acres. So that's why his cost is in the $25,000 range. And on the capacity fee, what he initially paid, if you recall, the capacity fees for a long time were $934, and then they were raised to $4,620, and by paying the $934, he locked in that lower rate because the current capacity fees are $6,000, over $6,000.
I didn't say I was stupid.
I didn't say you were.
Okay, so
So what do you need, maybe it's not what you need, what you want right now, Mr. Williams? Ms. Walker, I'm just piggybacking.
Well, basically what I wanted was the 8-inch line so that, and to be hooked into it.
That seems to us, based upon the presentation given by Mr. Hagan, that's set up for a separate parcel and project. So on your space and parcel...
I understand that, and so I don't have to go through the whole thing like that.
All right.
But what I'm trying to say is that I'm looking to solve the problem and not create another one. It solves your problem if I sign these agreements, and then you can just dump onto me whatever it comes down to this 8-inch line later on. But what I'm trying to say is let's solve the problem so that we get that 8-inch line in, so that those properties are developable now, rather than wait until some developer comes down and says, well, I can finally do something out there, or maybe it will stagnate for years. And what you're doing is you're creating an island of undeveloped property in there that has nowhere to go. And the original proposal would have created a developable land. It is not now. And what I'm saying is that we need to try to negotiate some kind of a deal to get this thing tied in so that we can do it. And tie the whole thing in, and so that so the city gets additional taxes, it would seem to me, and additional benefit to them. So it's not a loss for you, it's a gain, and at the same time it's a gain to us.
I absolutely see where you're going.
Okay.
Two separate issues. One is to pay for the improvements that are already in place. And the second is, how do we program in the future development of that area?
Exactly.
So then, okay, so let's separate the two and focus for a couple of minutes now. Do we have, Mr. Hagan, programmed into a strategic plan somewhere the installation of an 8-inch line or 12-inch line or something for the future Ann Horn Road? I mean, is that on anybody's radar to do that? Or are we looking for the development, kind of a chicken and the egg thing? Are we looking for the developers to come in and say, we want to develop that area, and then we raise our hand and say, fine, you're going to need 8, 10, 12-inch line, and we're willing to partner with you on that?
It would be very easy to put in the 8-inch line. In fact, I believe there's stub outs on both these lines here. And it would be much less expensive than, if the city does it, it's going to be prevailing wage. If the 4 owners, the property owners, get together and dedicate the road right away, they can easily, at a very reduced cost, get a contractor to come out there and install the 8-inch line.
How much?
Probably.
Can we do this? Can we take that conversation offline? Because I'm starting to hear solution here. Starting to hear maybe we got something workable that we can talk about. But I think that what you originally came to ask about was the fees, and I'm thinking that you were present for the discussion that we had with Mr. Zambrano, and I don't believe that there's a way for us to waive the fees for the project that's already been completed, but let's move forward those discussions to see if there's something that we can do with the next phase.
Well, you're talking about waiving the fees, and yet there's also a law, if I remember correctly, or on your books, that says that you're supposed to treat all parties the same. And the next door neighbor, which was Sunset and Haskell, were treated much gentler, shall we say, than we have been. Are you aware of that?
Yeah, but didn't they take advantage?
I don't understand that.
They took advantage of the deal.
They brought in...
They took advantage of the deal that was earlier.
Yep.
Yes, but you have come in somewhat late, and as a result of that, this is what happens when you come in late.
Well, if you're worried about collecting off of that line that went out there, it seems to me that you've also got, if you're looking for additional monies, why not look to the people across the street of Main Street? All of those, if I understand the health department's position, is that they should be connected up to the city. Are you going to charge them for the lines out there?
That hasn't come to us.
Council has not been notified. Have we received notification that there's out on West Main, so that would be the northern half of West Main?
Those are in the county, and we have no jurisdiction on that.
We have not been notified.
But they do fit under the category of what the health department is saying. Anybody within range of a city water system has to be hooked up.
Well, then let's look at this as an opportunity, because if those areas potentially have to be brought into our system as well, perhaps there's an opportunity for us to do another project out there with an allocation of costs that would be of benefit for everyone in that area that needs a second hookup.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, this is so we're clear on this. Is the city already the other users, the other 14,000 households paid the $600,000?
Right.
So the balance of the users have already own a share of that 18-inch line that's out there by paying $600,000 up front. And I appreciate that the city did step up to do this, because the old system was failing, and they were under court order and a number of citation issues. So I want to remind you that you, as representing those other 14,000, have that capacity for getting that back from if other areas annex in up there. That's why we put an 18-inch line.
That's exactly right. That's how we would pay for the additional line down Antoine Road. But I think at this point, perhaps what the discussion needs to be, again, offline, Mr. Williams, with you and Mr. Hagan, is what options do we have, or you have, with your neighbors to run a line down Antoine Road?
Well, I haven't looked into what the cost of that line would be, so I don't know what it would be.
You have a great resource sitting right behind you that I think would be willing to work with you on.
One of the slides there.
Recognizing that the cost to the city was a prevailing wage, so it was we paid a higher higher hourly rate.
How much would it be on prevailing wage? How much would it be otherwise?
But I'm wondering if at this
This
time,
gentleman, yeah.
at this point in time, Mr. Williams, if we could please ask you to work directly with Mr. Hagan on a new...
Well, can I ask, can these two be combined so that it's not
Which
piecemeal? It was something that I don't think anybody out there was happy with when you put this, developing it to the size of the property, which was kind of a slap in the face of what they had originally done, which was originally it was for every connection it would be the $86. And
There's a MOU.
that's going back to the MOU.
But the MOU is not in
I
effect.
understand what you're saying.
And why
but
are you still doing
The
it?
MOU was the original agreement that everybody signed up to, and when it came out, it wasn't the MOU. Am I understanding? Does that make sense?
Oh,
Yes,
we've been
and
around,
he-
we've been
he's
around
going-
this, we've been around this circus tent a whole bunch of times on that MOU, and I think that the MOU was our best guess at the point in time when we thought the funding was coming from another source. And then as we went forward with the project, circumstances changed and numbers changed. And I think that the city, you see that the city ended up paying the lion's share for that project, and talk about being forward-thinking in terms of allowing development in that area. We now have capacity for additional development in that area, and I think that's the point that sometimes gets lost, is we were planning for future development out that way. And Mr. Hagan has already said we could run the line down Anhorn Road without needing to build in any additional capacity of what's already out there. So I think that we have a potential for a win-win. You're going to need some cooperation from your neighbors to make that happen.
And perhaps the city?
There you go, and there's your resource man right behind you for some answers.
Okay, I don't think I got my questions answered, but anyway.
We appreciate you bringing this to our attention, Mr.
Okay.
Williams.
Am I am I under, so at this time, my payment of the capacity fee is not sufficient or not acceptable, and you won't turn the water on?
The capacity fee's been paid and is no longer at issue. Your other two options, I believe you've been given the option of $113.68 for a monthly fee for construction costs, and the other $16,000 at the time of sale of your property. If there are other arrangements that you want to make, either privately or with our finance director, I guess that's an option. But at this point, those fees need to be paid for your water meter to be unlocked. I don't think we have any option otherwise.
In other words, you're refusing everything I said.
That is not a correct characterization.
Okay.
That is not a correct characterization. What we're saying is those fees need to be paid to pay for the construction project that's already been done, that's already benefited all of the other residents in that area. We can't tie this to the future development of a line that's not within anybody's ability to build right now. But I think we have to separate the two issues.
So if we were to build the line, would it change anything?
I mean, in terms of paying for the first project?
Right.
Nope. I don't see that would change.
A ripoff. It is. Because you're essentially saying that the $16,000 is have to be paid for something you don't have. I mean, even the health department thought that was kind of screwball.
And you had an opportunity to litigate that and you elected not to.
No, I was never told that as if when the litigation would start or anything else, it was never brought back to me. We put in
You filed a claim.
Filed a claim,
And you were
and that was
notified
it.
that the
That was
claim
never.
had been
I had never any
rejected.
notification or anything after that.
All right. It
Are we-
appears as though...
No, there's a
we're-
letter of rejection that the city attorney has.
The city clerk issued a letter of rejection on February 8th, 2011, confirming that the claim was rejected in its entirety by the El Centro City Council during their regular meeting of February 1st, 2011.
And a notification
And
that
it said
suit
warning
had
subject
be
to
filed.
And he was told he only had 6 months from the date of the notice to file a court action on the claim.
Let's put it this way. For one thing, I'm sure we never thought that we even needed to do it because we were already hooked up by that time to the raw water system, and we had a good, safe water drinking situation. There wasn't any reason for it.
Circumstances
Now
change.
you're telling me that
No,
that's...
circumstances change. And we had nothing, we, the city, had nothing to do with forcing you off of that water. Right? Circumstances change.
Okay.
Doubt that. I agree with